Finally, Aethir with the ATH token is recovering. It's up today, it's up this week. And the big question is, how much longer can this rally last? Let's have a look at some on-chain data most people aren't considering. Let's have a look at Tokenomics as well. We're currently at a bit under 6 cents. Up almost 9% today, 30% this week. But since launch, we pretty much went sideways. What's going on? Now, this is not the first video on Aethir on this channel. I published one exactly 3 months ago and the video performed quite well. In gray is an average video, in blue is the Aethir video, which shows that there is interest in the token. So if you're interested in the fundamentals and if you're wondering about token allocation, etc., feel free to check that out. Simply search for why Aethir is up. Now, some fundamentals have changed since release of that video. For example, we've now got the Aethir Edge launched. Before there was only a wait list with more than 100,000 participants. Now the Aethir Edge can directly be purchased for 1.3k. And it's another mechanism to mine the ATH token. Now, I'm always interested in what the smart money is doing, right? The Joe Schmoes of this world, they're simply just buying because something might be hyped at the time. But if the people with millions and millions of dollars accumulate a token, that's potentially positive. Now, on chain, we can count the number of whales. And that's this graph over here. What we're seeing here is the number of wallets that have roughly $100,000 worth of Aethir at current prices. And this tends to rise quite consistently over time. Within those 3 months, the number of whales roughly doubled. But again, the price didn't double. And it was not because retail was selling. Retail was purchasing as well. Now, one might think that the reason for Aethir's lackluster performance in US dollars is the general market. And this might be partially true. Because have a look at this chart. This is Aethir relative to Ethereum. So we're dividing now the ATH price by the ETH price. And this is going somewhat sideways, right? Since launch, we are up slightly by 15%, but that's still way less compared to the growth of the number of whales over that time period. So could it be that deep-in cryptos and GPU mining cryptos in general didn't perform well? Let's have a look at the competitors. So Aethir is competing directly with Render. It's a very similar business model. This is ATH relative to Render. This outperformed by 30%, but again, less than the 100% we're looking for. Here's Aethir relative to Akash, a very similar chart, a very similar growth as well, 10%. And it's interesting how Aethir tends to trade in somewhat of a range. Relative to Akash, we could go up by 25%, we could go down by 25%. This is a pretty narrow trading range. Now, when we look at Render and Akash, and we check their relative valuation to Ethereum, they actually did quite well, especially since beginning of the year, or maybe Q3 of 2023. Render outperformed Ethereum by 600%. Akash during the same time period also outperformed Ethereum, also by roughly 600%. And if you've watched the prior videos on Aethir on this channel, you probably know why the price is comparatively depressed. It's token unlocks, it's tokenomics. The supply of ATH is growing quite quickly over time. And if the demand can't grow as quickly, that potentially causes underperformance. So here's the number of ATH tokens over time. We're currently at 3.2 billion. And a lot of supply will get unlocked to advisors and to checkers and compute providers. In other words, people that buy hardware like this. Now, Aethir is riding on the back of a massive wave. This wave over here. This is the wave of AI and of GPU. What we are seeing is the price of Nvidia stock over time. Now, the big question is, how realistic are the current prices still? Are we in a bubble? Because if we zoom out a lot and we check the Nasdaq 100, so US technology stocks over time, we had 2 major corrections. We had the .com crisis and we had the global financial crisis. What we see over here, the vertical line, this is when Bitcoin launched. So Bitcoin really has never seen any significant correction. The .com crisis was a correction of more than 80%. And unfortunately, there are some scary numbers if we compare the situation back in the days to today. At one point, Cisco was the largest market cap in the Nasdaq 100. It had a valuation of $500 billion, while the US money supply was roughly $4.6 trillion. So Cisco as a single company was worth as much as 12% of all circulating US dollars. Now, if you compare this to today, Nvidia's market cap is 2.9 trillion, money supply is 21 trillion. That's 14% of all of money supply. So relatively speaking, Nvidia is even more hyped, is even more expensive today than Cisco was back in the days. And again, we got a more than 80% correction in technology stocks at the time. Will this happen again? Your guess is as good as mine, but I don't think that Nvidia can do another 3, 4, 5x from here relative to monetary expansion, and money only expands by 6.8% per annum over the decades. So the air is getting thin, and the big question is, will Aethir be traded as a derivative of Nvidia? Is it simply just riding the wave, or is there enough idiosyncratic movements? If Nvidia was to crash, then the ATH token is probably not going to do too well either. And let's zoom out even further. Let's have a look at how much money is flowing into crypto. Is there currently a crypto expansion? Is money flowing from the fiat system into crypto? Or do we see outflows? Because more money in general, of course, means more risk taking, means, of course, higher prices. In the last 30 days, we saw the stablecoin market cap going down slightly by 0.4%. So net, there was redemptions from stablecoins into fiat. There were outflows. This is how that looks like on a chart. We had our Terra Luna collapse, which then started off a bear market. We then saw the turnaround in October of this year, which, by the way, is also when all of those AI tokens tended to outperform. So this is Render, this is Akash. And now since April of this year, this has pretty much halted. There's no outflows, there's no inflows. We are mainly going sideways. And since crypto is still a risk on asset, if there's no money flowing in, prices tend to rather go downwards. So Bitcoin dominance tends to rise, stablecoin dominance tends to rise, and the crypto market cap as a whole tends to decline. Again, since April, March of this year, the crypto market cap as a whole went down by 25%. The altcoins did even worse. This is the others dominance. So how much of all of crypto is in the altcoins? That went down by another 25%. So not only did Bitcoin get weaker, the altcoins lost even more. And so I'm personally rather cautious, especially with higher market cap altcoins like Aethir with 2.4 billion. If there is a lot of token inflation, it needs a lot of more capital to keep the price up. I personally prefer altcoins with smaller market caps, where just a bit of money can move the price quite a lot, where we've got more idiosyncratic movements. The overall picture of all of crypto looks not too great, and so we have to find a few winners that can outperform with not too much inflows. For example, 1 week ago, I made a video on Drift, and that's up 43% since release of that video. And because the price is picking up, the video starts to get some views as well. I try to be very early on this channel, and I always buy after I publish a video. So I waited roughly 24 hours after publishing the Drift video before buying, because I don't like this conflict of interest, right? I don't like YouTubers that chill tokens that they've already purchased. If you don't want to miss what I'm buying next, feel free to subscribe. I publish videos regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. If you want to know what I'm buying besides Drift, then feel free to check out the premium membership. This is where I announced Drift. This is where I'm announcing the next plays as well. If you don't want to pay for premium yet, there's also a free Telegram. The link is as well down below. Looking very much forward to chatting with you over there as well. Cheers.